Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Lisa Soto. I'm the principal of Leon Daiches Elementary School. It is with great pride that I welcome you to our school, where we provide an exemplary education in each classroom. I offer you our greetings on behalf of Daiches' 620 students and 90 faculty members. This morning, we are here to dedicate this library in memory of a beloved educator, Mrs. Maria del Carmen Lanese. Mrs. Lanese was a teacher here at Daiches for 32 years, where she taught first and second grades. Several of her colleagues still working here at Daiches have many fond memories of this exemplary educator. It is worth noting that Mrs. Lanese leaves a lasting legacy here at Daiches Elementary that I, as principal, and the rest of the faculty are proud to carry on. At this time, I'm going to pass the microphone to LISD's Executive Director for Communications, Mrs. Veronica Castillon, who will continue with our ceremony.
Good morning, and thank you, Ms. Soto. Welcome everybody to this very special occasion. So happy to see all the family and friends of the Davila and Lanese families. And now I ask that you please rise for the invocation to be given by the Most Reverend James Tamayo, Bishop of the Diocese of Laredo.
Lord our God, your spirit of wisdom fills the earth and teaches us your ways. Look upon the students of this elementary, that they may enjoy their learning experience and take delight in new discoveries. Help them to persevere in their studies and give them the desire to learn all things well. Look upon the teachers and the administration. Help them strive to share their knowledge with gentle patience and an endeavor always to bring the truth to eager minds. Today, this community gathers to honor one who walked these halls, one who loved the profession she was called to, Maria del Carmen Lanese. In a very special way, her spirit of learning comes from your divine spirit, a spirit that always seeks the best in an individual and that strives to give the best from what one has received from you, O loving God. And so today we thank you for the memories, the experience, and the continued loving presence of one who loved what she did and loved the people whom she served. May God's blessing be upon Maria del Carmen, upon this library, upon all those at Daiches Elementary, and upon her family. We ask this and all in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you. Please remain standing for the presentation of colors by the Dr. Leo Gonzalez Cigarroa High School Junior ROTC under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Ricky Kiles. The national anthem will be performed by the Daiches Elementary School Choir under the direction of Ms. Julissa Gonzalez, and children from the auditorium parent classroom under the direction of their teachers Joanna Garza, Carmela Treviño, and interpreter Myrna Loy Manning. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the grandchildren of Mr. and Mrs. Nicola Lanese.
Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. We are honored to have so many special guests attending our ceremony this morning, and it's my pleasure to introduce them to you. Beginning with the President of the LISD Board, the Honorable Dr. Cecilia May Moreno. The Vice President of our Board, the Honorable Hector J. Noyola. Our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. A. Marcus Nelson. We're also so honored to have here Webb County Commissioner, the Honorable Jesse Gonzalez. Former City Councilman, Dr. Jacinto Juarez. Representing the United States Border Patrol, we have Agents Robert Ponce, Miguel Lopez, and Isaac Compiani. We also have our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Silvia Rios, our Director of Elementary Education is Migdala Ramirez, our Executive Director of Student Services, Ms. Maggie Martinez. Ms. Soto, can you please assist me by introducing our campus administrators and other special guests?
Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce my assistant principal, our assistant principal, Mrs. Sara Santos. We have our librarian of this lovely library is Mrs. Griselda Manrique. Her assistant is Ms. Cindy Agüero. And we also have some former colleagues of Mrs. Lanese. So we have Ms. Saldana, our bookkeeper, Ms. Almaraz. We have Ms. I. Gonzalez, one of our teachers, and Ms. Priscilla Garza is our science teacher, and we have Ms. Madrigal, who is a former student. That's right, and we have our secretary, who's also Ms. Rosa Johnson, is a former student. She's our secretary here. We also have our computer lab manager, Ms. Olivia Ramos, who worked with Ms. Lanese. And I believe that's it. So, thank you all.
Thank you so much. So happy to have everybody here. Thank you, Ms. Soto. Daiches Elementary School was originally built and opened its doors in 1922 as a 4-room brick building. The school was named in honor of the late Leon Daiches, who served on the LISD school board in the 1930s. Now let's fast forward to 2017, and our students are getting a rich educational experience in this very modern building. And our school board president is a dynamic lady who's a former city council member, a retired educator from LISD, a mom of 5, and a grandmother to 10. I would like to invite to the podium the president of LISD's board, Dr. Cecilia May Moreno.
Should I correct that and say it's 11 grandchildren?
I'll correct.
Only because we're proud. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us here today as we formally dedicate the Leon Daiches Elementary School Library in the name of Maria del Carmen Lanese, a teacher that spent her entire 32 years teaching at the students of Leon Daiches Elementary School. What an honor it is to recognize Maria del Carmen Lanese. Here with us today are her husband, Mr. Lanese, And her children, Nicola, a dentist, Claudia, an attorney, and Arnaldo Lanese, the director for Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Mrs. Lanese and Mr. Lanese were very proud of their children, and they were very honored with all their accomplishments. So this is why I felt it very important to recognize them individually. Mrs. Lanese was known to have loved the community surrounding Leon Daiches Elementary School, and she always felt a common and mutually respected bond with her community. She taught first and second grade, the important child development years before we had pre-kinder and kinder. The school and community of Daiches Elementary School was fortunate to have had Maria del Carmen Lanese and her dear teacher friends who together cultivated a culture of dedication, friendship, commitment, and respect. They supported the administration, they were proud of their students, and they partnered with the parents for over 30 years. If any of you here were teachers or employees of the district at that time that worked with her, please give us a little wave of hand there. There, proud to have you all come here. Thank you. There was a very special bonding between Ms. Lanese and some of her other faculty members, and that itself was part of the history that has surrounded this school. What a beautiful legacy. What an example for future generations. And what an honor it is to dedicate this library to Maria del Carmen Lanese, an excellent teacher, an excellent role model, and a proud former LASD employee. Thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. And now it is an honor for me to introduce the instructional leader of our district and its 24,000 students in his 8th year as our superintendent. Please help me welcome Dr. Marcus Nelson to the podium.
Good morning, honorable members of the board, Most Reverend Bishop Tamayo, Commissioner, and obviously the family of Mrs. Lanese. We're so honored to have you here in one of our best elementary schools. And we know that Mrs. Lanese's time and effort, this is just a small token of our appreciation. And as Dr. Moreno said so well, she leaves such a beautiful legacy that will impact generations to come. And as kids come into this library and study the history and ask the librarian, ma'am, who's Miss Lanese? What an opportunity it will be for us to share the rich history that is the Laredo Independent School District and all of the teachers who made this school system what it is today. And so on behalf of our school district, we just want to thank the family for sharing Mrs. Lanese with us. You know, I've gotten to know Mr. Lanese, and as a matter of fact, I remember a conversation between former trustee Jesus Chuy Martinez, Mr. Lanese, and myself. And one thing I know for sure is no one is more proud of Miss Lanese than Mr. Lanese. And I just want the family to know that I recognize that. I've enjoyed every moment I've had the chance to spend with your family. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank Daiches Elementary under the direction of Ms. Soto and our Department of Communications for putting together such a special ceremony and a small token of our appreciation to the Lanese family. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Here to offer a response on behalf of the Lanese family are her children. I'd like to call up Arnaldo Lanese, Claudia Lanese Garcia, and Nicola Lanese Jr.
I'd like to thank Dr. Nelson, school board members, Ms. Soto, the Most Reverend James Tamayo, and all of our dear family and friends and my mother's co-workers, and all the current employees of Daiches Elementary School. Thank you for being here to inaugurate the Maria del Carmen Lanese Library at Leon Daiches Elementary School, and to also celebrate the life and legacy of my mother, Maria del Carmen Davila Lanese. One of my earliest childhood memories was coming to Daiches Elementary. I remember a brown brick building with a number of steps leading to my mother's classroom. It was the classroom at the corner, closest to Green Street. Stepping onto the campus today, after so many years, decades even, was as though I was walking onto sacred ground. This is the place where my mother spent each day of her life for 32 years. Retracing that drive that she took thousands of times and mimicking the millions of steps she took across this property for decades is overwhelming to me and my family. My mother was born and raised in Laredo, in the heart of downtown on the corner of Lincoln and San Bernardo. Her parents, Consuelo and Refugio Davila, owned and operated La America Pawn Shop, and her brother, who is here today, Manuel Davila, my uncle, continued the family tradition. My mother was a devout Roman Catholic, as our Bishop James Tamayo knows. She was faithful to the Universal Church and its teachings throughout her entire life. Growing up, my mother spent much of her time at her beloved ranch in Falcon in Zapata County. And as my father recounts, she was also a gifted dancer, having taken ballet and flamenco throughout her life. And according to my father, she was the best rock and roll dancer he ever knew. She graduated from St. Augustine. Many of her fellow classmates and childhood friends are here, and thank you for being here. She received her college degree in education at her beloved Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio. Miss Davila, as she was known at the time in the early 60s, landed her first teaching job here at Leon Daiches Elementary School. While here at Daiches, she met and married my father, Nicola Lanese. She became a mother while at Daiches and raised 3 children, Nicola Lanese, Jr., myself, and Arnaldo. My mother retired the same year that my brother Nick graduated from dental school and the same year that I graduated from law school. That's a lifetime of having spent here at Daiches Elementary. There are so many things about my mother that I want to share with you for this very fitting celebration, but I can't keep you here all day. So I will tell you about her love of teaching and her love of Daiches and the importance of Daiches in her life. She was an elementary school teacher for 32 years, and let's think exactly about what that means. She was a first grade teacher and a second grade teacher. She was responsible for teaching kids to read. And in doing so, I wonder how many hundreds, if not thousands of times she journeyed into the library. It was also her job to teach kids to write. She was in charge of making sure her students learned the basics of math. And she was the first to introduce them to the environment around them in science lessons. Most importantly, she was one of the first adults to teach her students respect, compassion, trust, patience, and acceptance. In short, first and second grade teachers are the sculptors of our children's lives. What a responsibility, but what a blessing. And she certainly considered her kids, her students, to be her kids, as she would say. She would always tell us about her kids. She would always say that she had 3 kids of her own, but that she had 20 more waiting for her at Daiches every day. And she meant it. She was a kind, loving, wonderful woman, and she had a genuine, gentle manner about her. Childlike almost. If ever there was a woman designed to teach first and second grade children, it was my mother. When LISD asked us to share mementos of my mom with the community here at Daiches Elementary, we looked through her things, many, many things, a lifetime of things. And miraculously, by the providence of God, 2 writings appear. My dad recognized them as the philosophies of teaching that my mother espoused early in her career. They were dated 1968 on the back. I framed them, and they are on display in this case. And they will be here on display. But I'd like to share one of them with you because it perfectly encapsulates not only her vocation as a first and second grade teacher, but the enormity of the responsibility of being an educator. And it reads, it is entitled, How Does Your Child Live? If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with fear, he learns to be apprehensive. If a child lives with pity, he learns to feel sorry for himself. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with jealousy, he learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns to be confident. If a child lives with praise, he learns to be appreciative. If a child lives with recognition, he learns it is good to have a goal. If a child lives with honesty, he learns what truth is. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with friendliness, he learns that the world is a nice place in which to live. With what is your child living? I think that's absolutely beautiful. I have no doubt that my mother showed her students tolerance, encouragement, praise, recognition, honesty, fairness, and friendship, because that's what we learned at home. And speaking of friendships, many lifelong friendships were formed here at Daiches among her co-workers and her bosses. But the words co-workers and bosses do not do justice to the bonds created among my mother and her fellow teachers and co-workers. They were sisters. They were family. Many of them are here today. Some are with her in heaven. And if my mother were here today, she would insist on sharing this very special recognition, this very special day, with all her school family. And just to name a few, Amelita Raymond, Ana Cecilia Barrera, Adelina Martinez, Yolanda Benavides, Mary Shin, Tony Laurel, Raquel Gage, and Maria Dalia Serra. There was something special about that time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. No one quit, no one transferred. They all loved Daiches and made this their home for the entirety of their careers as well. And much of my mother's happiness and career satisfaction was also derived from its leadership, her principles. I remember hearing about Mrs. Rodriguez as a young child and what a wonderful mentor she was. Then there was Alfonso Ornelas. Bosses have such an incredible impact in our lives, and Mr. Ornelas was a lifesaver, literally. My mother credits his kindness, his compassion, and his thoughtfulness in allowing to take weeks off work to take care of my sick grandmother in San Antonio Hospital. Thank you, Sylvia. What boss would do that? What Mr. Ornelas did, and we will never forget that simple act of humanity. My mother lived a full and loving life. She was deeply loved, but most importantly, she loved abundantly. Her family, her students, their families, this community, and her beloved Leon Daiches Elementary School. It is almost a year that the Lord called her to heaven. The gift that the Laredo Independent School District have given our family is immeasurable. On behalf of the Davila and Lanese families, I would like to thank you for this very special honor. We are humbled by your acknowledgement of my mother, Maria del Carmen Davila Lanese's lifelong work and dedication as an educator.
Claudia. Beautiful words. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today. I'd like to thank and recognize members of the LISD board, Dr. Nelson, Bishop Tamayo, Ms. Castillon. I know you and I never really spoke, but trust me, I was coordinating behind the scenes, okay? Ms. Soto and the faculty, staff, administration, and especially the students here at Daiches Elementary. My family and I are truly grateful for this honor. You can't imagine how ecstatic we were when we received the news of this dedication. Words really couldn't express our emotions. I know I'm my mother's son because as soon as I heard, the tears started coming out. Anybody who knows my mom knows that any type of emotions resulted in tears. We were filled with excitement, honor, humility, because that's what my mother taught us. Gratitude, and definitely a little bit of sadness. Sadness only because we knew that the only person that would have been more excited about this is my mom. Through the years, no matter how much things have changed, things have changed since she retired back in the 90s. Mom always held true, call her a little bit old school, but held the same values near and dear to her heart. Most importantly, her faith. She was a devout Catholic. Her family, her friends, and those two are very difficult to distinguish. They're intertwined where it came to my mom. This next is, I'll just group them together, Elvis Presley, the San Antonio Spurs, and the New York Yankees. And lastly, the Laredo Independent School District and Leon Daiches Elementary. That never left her heart. For 32 years, she influenced the lives of so many at this wonderful place. Now, like Claudia said, it's been almost a year now that Mom passed away. The evening of her rosary, who remembers all the details of that, right? But there was one thing that really stands out for me. One person, a lady, I'm not sure of her name or where she works, but I remember her telling me that my mom was her first grade teacher here at Daiches. And she said my mom was such an amazing influence and role model on her that she decided to become a teacher as well. Because of the influence of her first grade teacher, my mother. We're all so young when we're in first and second grade that one of the easiest things to do at that age is forget about everything, especially teachers who come and go. But that just wasn't the case here. That's just the way my mom was. She truly loved teaching and working with children. It was her passion, and her passion was truly infectious. A few weeks ago at home, my wife, my kids, and I, and my father were sitting at the table, just talking, and we were talking about today. We began reminiscing, and then my dad was mentioning how my mom would be both happy and sad at the end of each school year. So happy because she was going to come home and get to spend the summer with mis hijos, which are Claudia, Nick, and myself. But so sad at the same time because she was having to say goodbye to her other hijos, her students. She really saw them as her own, as her children. She loved and cared for them just the same. And when I say sad, like I said earlier, I mean sad. My mom would shed tears. She was so passionate about it that way. I'm going to close with one memory from my childhood. I remember asking my mom, how come I don't come to Daiches with you? When I was in elementary school. You need to know, our parents had us at Blessed Sacrament Elementary School, which was a Catholic school. And so when I asked her, why Blessed Sacrament and not Daiches? Why can't I be coming with you? Why are you dropping me off and abandoning me, She said, well, because you need to learn about your religion. Okay, me being the person I was, always having a to question everything. I said, well, then how come Blessed Sacrament and not Ursuline, which is now San Agustin Elementary? But I said, you went to Ursuline, didn't you? And her answer quieted me. She said, Blessed Sacrament School are the Eagles, just like us here at Daiches. And no matter where we are or what we do, we're always going to be Eagles. Thank you all very much. God bless.
That's a great speech, Tono. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming here today to honor my mother, Maria del Carmen Davila Lanese. My name is Nick. I'm her firstborn. But to my mom, I was mi rey, divino, precioso, adorado. She would start off our conversations like this every single morning as I would drive to work. And my mother truly, she had a heart of gold. My wife Lori always said that she was the sweetest person she had ever met. My dental staff loved my mother, and she treated them as she knew them so well and always gave them so much individual attention that they couldn't help but love her. She was a wonderful mother to her 3 kids, a beautiful and loving wife to her honey, Nicola, and a great leader and educator here at Daiches Elementary School. She was a very loving and giving person, and choosing to become an educator allowed her the opportunity to make a difference in young people's lives. She enjoyed teaching in 1st and 2nd grade and did it for over 30 years, 32 to be exact. The love and passion she had for her career helped me to realize how important having passion for something was. My mother always stressed how important an education was in life, and her encouragement and support helped me to become the person that I am today. As a devout Catholic, she was a proud member of the Catholic Daughters and a Eucharistic minister at Blessed Sacrament. I do remember her loving to play bunco with her friends and enjoying an evening out with the birthday club. She truly loved her circle of friends, the Catholic Church, and especially her family. To know my mom is to love her. After retirement from education, my mom enjoyed life to the fullest. Even when she was feeling very ill, she always had a happy disposition. She was always in a good mood no matter what. She truly was always a joy to be around. She did really light up her room with her personality. My girls miss her kisses, as they were known to be different in that they would make a clicking sound each time, and my girls loved it. Sometimes my wife and I give our daughters kisses that way. But there isn't a day that passes that I don't think of my mom. As a matter of fact, we just got a puppy, and we named him Elvis. Not only because I'm a fan, but because I know it would have brought a smile to her face. He's at the house right now, and he's probably still in the, anyway. I remember as a child listening to Elvis with her, and I just recently attended an Elvis tribute concert, which made me think of how my mom would have enjoyed the experience, and I would have loved to have taken her. When I was first told that a library was going to be dedicated to her, I felt so honored in knowing my mother will forever be remembered and her legacy will live on in spirit. I want to personally say thank you to Daiches Elementary School for taking the time to recognize such a beautiful person, my mom, my best friend, Maria del Carmen Davila Lanese. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnoldo, Claudia, Nicola, for those heartfelt thoughts about your mother. We have a little trophy case over here, and where you can come and see a little bit more about Mrs. Lanese. And I was wondering why there was a book about Elvis Presley in there. Now I know. But it's all shiny because they just polished it and put it all together yesterday here at the staff. But I'm hoping that in the future it's full of children's fingerprints so that they can see what a wonderful person we're naming our library for. We've come to the end of our ceremony, but I'm going to ask you all to make your way into the hallway for the unveiling of a portrait that will grace this library's entry for perpetuity. And so we'll be over here. And then after the unveiling, we invite you back into the library. We're going to have a wonderful brunch hosted by Daiches Elementary. So thank you all for being here today.